What's up, everybody? Checking this video out. This is the Year in Wrestling 1998 part 6. I'll be talking about SummerSlam and WCW Fall Brawl and Halloween Havoc and WWF Breakdown in Your House. I'm going to change things up a bit about the Year in Wrestling, how I talk about my videos, because I want them to be a little bit shorter. So I'm going to just talk about the main events of the pay-per-views and maybe some other matches on the show that I cared for and I thought were entertaining and good, because the rest of these matches on pay-per-views really didn't matter or really didn't mean anything, or were not really any big storylines, or they just were not really memorable matches on these pay-per-views. So I'm going to just talk about a lot of the main events through the pay-per-views for every month. And then when I start my 1999 videos, I'll still talk about every match to most of the pay-per-views. And I'll run down every single match on the card until I get to like August of 99. Then I'm going to just talk about the main events of pay-per-views. And then when I get to 2000 and talk about the year 2000, I'm not going to talk about every single match on every single pay-per-view anymore, because I did that throughout my entire 90s videos about the 90s. I talked about every single match on every single pay-per-view, and it's enough already. If you want to know what matches were on all these pay-per-views and who won, you can look them up on the internet. Anyways, I'm going to start with SummerSlam 1998. Took place from Madison Square Garden in New York City. Before that, SummerSlam 88. The first ever SummerSlam took place from MSG. And then 91, you had SummerSlam 91 take place from New York City. 88, you had a big main event, the Mega Powers versus Andre and Ted DiBiase. That's a big main event for the New York City fans and the crowd at MSG. 91, you had a big SummerSlam. You had Bret Hart win the Intercontinental title for the first time. And then, and you had Macho Man and Elizabeth also get married at SummerSlam 91, storyline-wise. I think they're still married at the time. Anyways, then MSG Survivor Series 96. WWF returned to MSG with Survivor Series 96. Another more big matches were on that show. Bret Hart returned and had a great match with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Psycho Sid won the WWF Championship from Shawn Michaels for the first time. And the New York City fans really loved Sid, and he was really over in MSG. And then after that, you had SummerSlam 98 return to Madison Square Garden as a pay-per-view. And before Survivor Series 96, WrestleMania 10 was in MSG, and that was a big pay-per-view. Then after Survivor Series 98, you had Royal Rumble 2000 return to Madison Square Garden as a pay-per-view. And then after that, I believe it was Survivor Series 2002 took place from Madison Square Garden. And then the final pay-per-view, last pay-per-view that was held in MSG was, I believe, Survivor Series 2000, I want to say 11 or 12. I think it was 2011 or 12. Anyways, The Rock returned on that show to team with John Cena to take on R-Truth and The Miz, and CM Punk won the WWE Championship from Alberto Del Rio, and CM Punk would hold the title for a very long time and have a long run with it. I think he had a WWE title for, I think, 13 or 14 month run as WWE Champion. Now, SummerSlam 98. The matches I cared about and that I thought were good. the Intercontinental title ladder match. The Rock against Triple H, The Nation against DX. Came to a head, their feud came to a head at SummerSlam 98 in a ladder match. Intercontinental title was hanging above the ring. Of course, Madison Square Garden saw one of the most famous and classic ladder matches of all time at WrestleMania 10 between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. So, Triple H wins the Intercontinental Championship. Mark Henry got involved. Chyna got involved. So, Triple H wins the Intercontinental title. He wouldn't hold on to it for very long because he was actually, I believe he got a knee injury in late 98 and he was taken out of action for a while. So he was stripped of the Intercontinental title and it was put up in a tournament on Raw in October 98 where Ken Shamrock won the Intercontinental title on Raw in a tournament, a one-night tournament. I believe Ken Shamrock defeated X-Pac in the finals to win the Intercontinental title. And also, other things happened on SummerSlam 98. Jeff Jarrett took on X-Pac and the loser got their head shaved. Jeff Jarrett lost. He got his head shaved in the ring. ICP and Insane Clown Posse was on the show. I'm not a fan of their music. I think their music sucks. But there are a lot of ICP fans out there. Anyways, they came out with the Oddities. And they were with the Oddities rapping the Oddities theme song. Also, main event. The match that I was most looking forward to at SummerSlam 98. Oh, also, there was a Lion's Den match. Ken Shamrock defeated Owen Hart in the Lion's Den. That was damn entertaining. Main event, The Undertaker against Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWF Championship. I almost said WWE Championship, but it was still WWF in 98. Stone Cold wins and retains the WWF Championship, defeats The Undertaker. Now I'm going to talk about WCW Fall Brawl 98. Pay-per-view took place in September 98. This was right after The Ultimate Warrior debuted in WCW on a Monday Nitro. He debuted and the Warrior cut a promo for about probably over 20 minutes. He kept talking and talking and talking. I believe that Nitro had to go to a commercial and they came back from commercial and the Warrior was still in the ring talking to Hogan. He wouldn't stop talking. So he said a lot of shit. I don't remember everything he said, but I know he said to Hogan once, he was right up in Hogan's face and he said to Hogan, you never beat a Warrior. And that's true, because the Ultimate Warrior was one of the few to beat Hogan in the 90s. And Hogan didn't even lose in the 80s. So Warrior was one of the few to beat Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6. And the other guys that defeated Hogan in the 90s were Rowdy Piper and Sting. I don't think he lost many other matches at all in the 90s. Anyways, Warrior cuts a long, weird, odd, strange, didn't really make any sense promo on Nitro when he made his WCW debut. So Warrior's in WCW now. And he got a big time great deal for himself. I'm sure he made a ton of money in WCW, and Ted Turner was stupid enough to pay the Warrior and probably overpay him. He was a big name. Warrior, no doubt, was a big name in wrestling. But he wasn't a top guy. He wasn't a top star. He wasn't in his prime anymore. He was in his 40s and whatever. WCW takes away another old WWF star. That was my opinion of things when Warrior signed with WCW. I just thought WCW takes away another top WWF star that the WWF made. So, the teams for War Games, a War Games match at Fall Brawl 98, the teams were I believe Rowdy Piper was in it. I think Rowdy Piper was in it. I can't even remember. But Team Piper was, I think, or Team WCW, I think, was Rowdy Piper, Diamond Dallas Page, and I cannot remember who else. Somebody else. Or Warrior. It was probably Warrior. Or Warrior's team was DDP and Rowdy Piper, I think. Team NWO White and Black was Hollywood Hogan, I think Bret Hart, and Stevie Ray. Team NWO Red and Black, the Wolfpack, I believe was Kevin Nash, Sting, and I cannot remember who. I think Lex Luger. So Lex Luger, Sting, and Kevin Nash, I think. Anyways, Diamond Dallas Page wins. So the 3 teams, first time ever, 3 teams of 3 guys each in a War Games. 3 teams in the War Games. First time ever WCW went with that as a War Games match. Diamond Dallas Page wins the War Games match, and because he won the War Games match, he then gets a title shot at Halloween Havoc 1998 against the world champion Goldberg. Also, before this DDP won the War Games, Ultimate Warrior kicked through the doors, one of the doors of the War Games cage. Warrior kicked himself through it and climbed through it, and Hollywood Hogan was in the entranceway running away from Warrior, going to the back. Warrior breaks out of the cage and gets to Hogan and starts beating on Hogan, starts punching Hogan. The crowd was pretty into it, but Warrior didn't look very good. I mean, he was in great shape for his age, but his punches looked weak and slow. But anyways, their match at Halloween Havoc 98 was a fucking mess and a fucking nightmare, and it was god-awful. Anyways, Warrior breaks out, attacks Hogan, and DDP wins the War Games match. That was WCW War Games 98, or Fall Brawl 98. Now I'm going to talk about WWF Breakdown in Your House from September 98. The things I remember about this show that were good and that were memorable to me were the debut of Gangrel on a WWF pay-per-view, his pay-per-view debut. I think he defeated D'Lo Brown, did Gangrel. Or maybe Gangrel defeated X-Pac. Not X-Pac. I believe Gangrel defeated D'Lo Brown, if I remember right. So, memorable debut. I always thought the Gangrel character was pretty damn cool. Other things I remember about Breakdown were a memorable, pretty fun tag team match. Too Cold Scorpio and Al Snow took on the team of Too Much, Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor. That tag match was pretty damn entertaining. Another great match was a triple threat steel cage match between Mankind, Ken Shamrock, and The Rock. That was a damn good triple threat cage match. I enjoyed it, and it was really entertaining. And I believe The Rock won. Hopefully I'm not wrong about that. Let me just look it up for a minute. Yeah, The Rock did defeat Mankind and Ken Shamrock, and Gangrel lost in his pay-per-view debut to D'Lo Brown. The main event was pretty damn entertaining and pretty damn good. I'm not saying it was the best match, but it was damn good. It was entertaining. Stone Cold Steve Austin took on and defended the title against The Undertaker and Kane in a triple threat match. Undertaker and Kane started working together to try to defeat Stone Cold, and the finish was they both pinned the champion. They both pinned Stone Cold at the same time, 1, 2, 3. So who was the new champion? Nobody had a clue who the new champion was, because Taker and Kane both pinned him at the same time. So then Vince McMahon somehow gets his hands on the championship as Mr. McMahon. He gets his hands on the WWF championship, takes it, and goes in his limo, and he's holding the belt, and then he steals the belt from Stone Cold. Stone Cold chases him, chases Vince's limo. Vince gets in the limo, holding the title outside the limo, goes like this, gives Stone Cold the middle finger, and then goes in his limo and drives off. And Stone Cold looks pissed and really angry. So that was Breakdown in Your House from September 98. Very good pay-per-view, I thought. Now I'm going to talk about In Your House from October 98, WWF Judgment Day pay-per-view. Judgment Day, you had Ken Shamrock against Mankind. Intercontinental titles on the line. This was a pretty entertaining match. Ken Shamrock wins and retains. Main event, the match that was basically the match everybody wanted to watch and see. Undertaker versus Kane one-on-one with Stone Cold Steve Austin as a special guest referee. The winner would become the new WWF champion because Stone Cold lost the title in controversy because at Breakdown because he's pinned by Taker and Kane. So he was a special guest referee for this match, and there was no winner. There was just no winner. There was no finish to the match. Stone Cold is a ref. He screws Taker and Kane. I believe he stuns them both and lays them out on their back, and then he counts 1, 2, 3 and counts Taker and Kane out of the match. So there's no winner again, and there's no WWF champion in the company again. And then Vince in a plastic, he was in a box, I don't know what you call this, sky box. He was in a protective shield, was around him. He was sitting in there with Big Boss Man, which did not make his debut yet, or did not come back yet, but that was Big Boss Man wearing a ski mask over his face. Big Boss Man was with Mr. McMahon as his bodyguard, as his protection, and later on Big Boss Man would reveal himself, pull the mask off, and hit Stone Cold with his nightstick and pull his mask off, and it was a Big Boss Man. He came back from WCW to the WWF. So Vince gets on the mic and says to Stone Cold, as a ref, standing in the ring, "Screw you, Stone Cold, you're fired." And he fires Stone Cold Steve Austin from the WWF. And then Judgment Day 98 ends right there. Then the next night on Monday Night Raw in October 98 from my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I didn't go. I don't know why I didn't go to the live or Raw. I don't think I knew it was in town. I just didn't know it was in town until it went on the air. I didn't hear about it. Anyways, the Raw after Judgment Day 98, Stone Cold Steve Austin, they keep showing him on camera. He's sitting in his truck with a bow and arrow, like he's waiting and hunting Vince McMahon, or trying to hunt Mr. McMahon and basically murder him, I guess. So that's what it looked like. He was so angry, like he wanted to murder him. So then Vince McMahon has security sitting in his little dressing room. I believe Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson leave Vince and tell him they're going to get him coffee or something. They leave Vince alone in his room. Stone Cold gets in the room with Vince, closes the door, speaks to him, and says he's going to take him out to the ring and that he has something for him. He had an envelope and he put it in Vince's pocket, and he says to Vince, "I got something for you, and I'm taking you out to the ring, and your eyes are going to pop out of your head." So he takes Vince into the ring. Vince is in a wheelchair still because I guess he's injured. I don't remember how he got injured, but the storyline was Vince was in a wheelchair, walking around, using a wheelchair, and just being a miserable old man in a wheelchair. Crabby old man. Stone Cold gets Vince in the ring on Raw, stuns him, and holds a fake gun to Vince's head. Vince is on his knees, and you should just watch that Raw on the WWE Network. It's great. Vince's face, he looks scared to death, like he's about to get his brains blown out by Stone Cold. He has a fake gun to his head, pulls the trigger, out pops a flag and says, "Got you," or whatever. Says, "I got you," or something like that. Or I think it said "bang." Bang 316. So then Vince is scared to death, and then he looks, and now he knows the gun is fake. Stone Cold picks Mr. McMahon up, stuns him, and then Vince, before he stuns him, he shows the crowd and holds Vince up. And because when Vince was on his knees and had the fake gun to his head, Vince pissed himself. Mr. McMahon pissed his pants. So Stone Cold picks him up, shows the crowd that Vince pissed his pants, and then Stone Cold gets on the mic and says, "Mr. McMahon just pissed his pants," or he said something like that, or some line about Vince McMahon 316, "I just pissed my pants." I think that was the line. And then the crowd laughed. It was funny as hell. And then he stuns Vince. Stone Cold's music hits, Raw ends, and the envelope in Vince's pocket from Stone Cold was a new 5-year contract for Stone Cold Steve Austin. I guess and then later on it was revealed that Stone Cold got that new 5-year contract through Shane McMahon. And Shane McMahon would debut on WWF Raw on television. He would debut in, I believe, October or November 98. He would debut, and then eventually Shane would turn on Stone Cold at Survivor Series 98. So Vince pisses himself. That is a boss and a millionaire of a company. Probably multi-millionaire. Vince should be a billionaire, but he's not. He's a millionaire. Probably many, many, many times over. That's a freaking millionaire on live or worldwide television pissing his pants. That takes a lot of balls to do that. I mean, just do it for your company and for storyline wise to piss yourself. That's really amazing. Vince did that, and that was awesome. Anyways, now I'm going to talk about WCW Halloween Havoc 1998. Matches I cared about, but some did not deliver, were Sting versus Bret Hart. I believe it is for the U.S. title. I think Bret Hart was the U.S. champion. So Sting was facing Bret Hart for the first time ever. It was like a dream match. For wrestling fans, it was a dream match. But it did not deliver. It just did not work out. I don't know what happened. Bret and Sting, they just did not click in the ring together, and it didn't work. Anyways, the finish was really stupid. Bret Hart knocks Sting out with the baseball bat, and then starts beating on Sting with the baseball bat, hitting the bat on Sting's head, and so Sting was knocked out and carried out on a stretcher unconscious. Stupid finish for a dream match for WCW to have Bret Hart and Sting under contract and then put them in the ring together and put on a dream match for fans. Then they come up with that god-awful, crap, shitty-ass finish. It was stupid, it was awful, and I didn't enjoy it. It was just, I thought Bret versus Sting at Halloween Havoc 98, I thought it'd be way better, and it was not. It wasn't even good. Other things that could have been good but weren't really good. Scott Hall versus Kevin Nash. They had a one-on-one match. Scott Hall was doing a storyline where he was basically a drunk, where he's being drunk all the time, showing up on Nitros holding cups of alcohol, and then cutting promos where he seemed like he was drunk. And then Kevin Nash was coming out to the ring and embarrassed, saying, "You're embarrassing yourself, Scott Hall. Just quit this. You're embarrassing yourself." And then he even yelled at Scott Hall, "I don't even know who you are anymore," stuff like that. This storyline was they shouldn't have gone in that direction and have Scott Hall bring up his real life alcohol addiction problems on television. They just shouldn't have done it. I'm sure he still had alcohol and addiction issues when he was doing the match. I'm not saying he was drunk or high at Halloween Havoc. I'm just saying before that and probably after it, he had problems still. I mean, the guy, Scott Hall, WWE has paid for him to be in rehabs like seven or eight times. So hopefully now the guy is, I know he's clean. Hopefully he stays clean forever, for the rest of his life. And DDP really, really helped Scott Hall and Jake the Snake. If it wasn't for DDP saving those two guys, moving them in his own house with him, if it wasn't for DDP, I think Scott Hall and Jake the Snake would have been dead by now. So God bless Diamond Dallas Page. The man is a saint. So Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, that could have been better at Halloween Havoc 98. It wasn't very good. And I think the match ended in a DQ or something. I don't remember there even being a real winner. Now, before I talk about DDP and Goldberg as the main event, now I'm going to talk about the mess, the absolute mess of a match that was Hollywood Hulk Hogan and The Warrior. It was a WrestleMania 6 rematch, and I'm sure some people were excited to see it and wanted to see a rematch, and were excited to see Warrior in WCW on Halloween Havoc in a one-on-one match. Well, Warrior was never a great wrestler. Period. He never was. The guy had the most energy out of any wrestler, and the guy was intense as hell, and he was even probably too stiff in the ring and a little bit dangerous. And he was never a great worker. I don't care what anybody says, Ultimate Warrior was never a great worker. Hulk Hogan was never a great wrestler or worker, but what Hogan did worked way more than what Warrior did in the ring. Hogan was safe in the ring. He never hurt anybody. Warrior hurt a couple people. He hurt Bobby Heenan, injured his neck a couple times. Anyways, Hogan's style was safe, and people loved to work with Hogan. I heard that from a lot of guys like Ted DiBiase, and other people said Hogan was great to work with in the ring. Anyways, Hogan and Warrior at Halloween Havoc 98. I'm sure people wanted to see it, but it should have never happened. It should have never been on pay-per-view. The match was an absolute fucking mess. It was just crazy, stupid, and the entire match was bad, and the finish was crap. I don't even remember the finish. I think it was a DQ, double disqualification. Hogan had a lighter, and he was going to throw a fireball at Warrior, I guess. Anyways, the lighter, I don't know what happened. It wouldn't even work. He tried to throw the fireball later on, and it just went out. So that was botched. And the entire match was a botch because it was a mess. I think it's double DQ. Who really cares? Warrior versus Hogan at Halloween Havoc 98. Plain and simple, it was a fucking mess. And I don't wish on anybody to ever watch that match again. Don't ever watch it on the network. You'll waste 10 minutes of your time. So, the main event of Halloween Havoc was DDP challenging Goldberg for the WCW World Championship. DDP and Goldberg would put on a pretty damn good match. Probably one of Goldberg's best matches in WCW was with Diamond Dallas Page. DDP was a great worker. The guy was a workhorse. The guy busted his ass to become a top guy in WCW. He busted his fucking ass. And I believe that DDP brought the best out in Bill Goldberg because they had a great match at Halloween Havoc. The only problem was before the finish of the match, I believe WCW Halloween Havoc 98 went off the air and the pay-per-view ended because they ran out of time. How in the fuck do you run out of time when you're a major wrestling company and you've done a ton of pay-per-views before this and you never ran out of time on a pay-per-view? WCW was a mess at this time, and they were really mismanaged. Whoever is running things and the time of the matches, somebody fucked up big time. It was an embarrassment that Halloween Havoc 98 went off the air when the match wasn't over. The main event was not over, so everybody that ordered the pay-per-view, and I'm glad I was not one of them, but everybody that ordered it basically got screwed and got fucked because the pay-per-view went off the air and the main event was not over. So all those people that ordered your pay-per-view got screwed. You screwed your fans. You screwed your own fans, WCW. The fans that you had left, you screwed. So I'm sure they weren't too happy, and they probably were turned off to WCW and probably quit watching after that pay-per-view. So the match is still going on and the pay-per-view ends. So nobody knows who the hell won. Until the next night on Nitro, and Tony Schiavone, I believe, had to apologize, saying they went off the air when they were not supposed to, and the world title match still was going on, and we apologize. And tonight on Nitro, we're going to show the entire DDP versus Bill Goldberg match from Halloween Havoc. Okay, that's nice of you, but it was too fucking late, because it was 24 hours later. I'm sure a lot of people went on the internet to read spoilers on who won between Goldberg and DDP, so a lot of people already knew. So you showing the match on Nitro for free, that was nice of you, but you only did it, WCW, to try to save your ass, and it was just bad business. Halloween Havoc 98 gets a thumbs down from me. It could have been a great pay-per-view. DDP and Goldberg was very good, but it ends. It ended and we didn't see a winner because a pay-per-view was cut off. Anyways, thankfully, when WCW came out with the Halloween Havoc 98 videotape, and I bought it in, I think, 1999. I bought it. It was like $4 at a Blockbuster. So I bought it for $4. And thankfully, the DDP and Goldberg main event match was not cut off early. They showed the entire thing on the videotape. And I'm sure the entire DDP Goldberg match, I'm sure, is also shown on the network. I hope it is, at least. I hope the entire match is, because it was a good match. And DDP, as I said, he brought the best out in Goldberg because he was a great worker. And I'm sure he called the entire match in the ring. So that was Halloween Havoc 98. Gets 2 thumbs down. It was just a mess of a pay-per-view. A real mess. But that was WCW in late 98. A lot of stuff they did was a mess, and it didn't work. So I'm finished talking now about the stuff I wanted to talk about. This was the Year in Wrestling 1998 Part 6. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back with a Part 7 on my final video on 98. I believe I'll put it up on Wednesday on this channel and on my Twitter account. This was Part 6 of the Year in Wrestling 1998 video. Hope you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at TNAWWE Guy if you have a Twitter. And my second account is at NXTWWE Guy. Have a good Tuesday night. Bye for now.